88 of One Man's Opinion. Today I am doing something a little different. This won't be a review per se, but a reminiscing of Hartford Stages' A Christmas Carol, A Ghost Story of Christmas, adapted and directed by Michael Wilson, running through December 24th at Hartford Stage at 50 Church Street in Hartford, Connecticut. For all you lovely theater patrons that continue to visit my channel and haven't yet donated to my Patreon page, please take a moment during this review to visit it and consider becoming a patron. A link will be in the description. I first saw Hartford Stages' A Christmas Carol in 2007, and then when I first moved to Connecticut in 2008, it was one of my first gigs working on the deck crew for its 11th anniversary production, moving set pieces into position, opening sliders, pre-show setup, and lots of sweeping up of snow and glitter. Seriously, it takes at least a year to rid yourself of any glitter you track home over the month and a half of rehearsals and run of the show. We also helped with the setup and strike of the set and transporting all the goodies like props and stuff from the workshop and rehearsal spaces to the theater. It was a wonderful time working on the show, and even more so the second time around when I returned to work on the 2013 production, which I jumped on between separating from the Navy in October and returning to college in January. This was the year a whole new fly system was installed for the production that projects Jacob Marley, annually performed by the incomparable Noble Shropshire, up from a trap underneath the stage and hovers over Scrooge with dramatic haunting effect. Rehearsals went swimmingly, and then on tech night during pre-show I forgot to hang the 5-pound weight at the end of the line in the catwalk, so when I cued it to descend, it just unspooled and didn't go anywhere. Well, as I say, bad dress, great run, right? Well, it was tech, but still, lesson learned, and not just for me, but the rest of the fly team as well, and it never happened again. Still, being on the fly team, we weren't flying people the entire 2.5 hours of the show. There were 4 major flying cues at the time, and the rest of the show we were back to moving sets and, of course, sweeping tons of snow and glitter. But what was most memorable about my time at Hartford Stage and working this show is the connections I made with the cast and crew. Some I still consider friends to this day, like the aforementioned Shropshire, Johanna Morrison, who was playing the Spirit of Christmas Past in Betty Pigeon at the time. She is still on as the dialect coach for the show. Rebecca Jones, who now plays Johanna Morrison's track, who used to play Mrs. Cratchit, if I'm not mistaken. Robert Hannon Davis, who used to play Bob Cratchit up until the COVID-19 pandemic, now plays one of the solicitors and the undertaker. He's kind of aged out of playing Bob Cratchit, and I've always loved seeing his work. Then there's Sarah Killa, who plays Mrs. Fezziwig and Fred's sister-in-law. She's been around for as long as I can remember as well. This all means that I am too close to the show to give it an unbiased review because I love it so much. I am thrilled that after a 3-year hiatus of it being performed live, it has returned. There was a year where there was a modified streamed performance in 2020. If anything, I think the pandemic has done the show a bit of good. Attendance for the production had waned in the years prior. Bill Raymond, who had become the face of A Christmas Carol as Ebenezer Scrooge, left the production due to his inability to continue to perform such a rigorous role. Michael Preston, who had been playing the magical Mr. Marvel, took over the role for a couple years, and I thought he did an excellent job. But whether it be Raymond leaving or just communal complacency due to the confidence that the show would always be there to see next year if you didn't get around to it this year, ticket sales had declined. I remember reviewing it one year and shocked that on opening weekend there were so many empty seats. That doesn't seem to be an issue anymore, as absence seems to have made the heart grow fonder and performances are selling out, which is awesome. Preston has bowed out of the Hartford Stage production and is coincidentally performing Ebenezer Scrooge in Mark Cuddy's adaptation of the Charles Dickens classic at Jiva Theater Center in Rochester, New York. Beyond the personal aspects that make A Christmas Carol so enjoyable for me, it really is a magical production. Tony Straiges' scenic design is meticulously detailed, from the clock at the top of the proscenium to the trapdoor that opens the gates of hell for Marley's entrance. The cast is huge, with professional actors, students learning the craft from University of Hartford's Hart School, and over a dozen children's roles that are double cast. Robert Wierzel's lighting design is haunting and ethereal, and John Gromada's sound design goes from atmospheric to electric. Back this year is the original director, Michael Wilson. At some point, probably before 2011 when he stepped down as artistic director. He passed directing duties to other directors. If there's a bona fide critique that I'm going to give this year's production, it's that I'm glad he's back. Over the show's 25 years of life, minus the several years not produced due to COVID, the show grew more and more silly, with gags being added. I'm not saying the gags weren't funny, but were they necessary? Probably not. Aside from the key gag in Scrooge's counting office where Scrooge would lock up the money for the day and Cratchit would come and ask for his pay, causing Scrooge to begrudgingly have to unlock the cash box again and pay him, the other gags were pretty expendable. Alan Gilmore steps into the role of Scrooge this year, who gives the character a sourer composition, which I like. It allows the journey to feel more organic. It also allows the different scenes of drama versus humor to balance out, as he isn't trying to force laughs into scenes that don't necessarily need it. Ryan Garbeo is the new Bob Cratchit, who is charming. There is a moment near the end where hey, spoiler alert if you haven't seen any production of any Christmas Carol anywhere ever, or read the book, or seen any movie adaptations. Tiny Tim dies, and Garbeo does a pretty good job of balancing his grief with his attempt to hold his family together and love them. It's the hardest scene of the play for him, and he does a really good job. John Andrew Morrison plays the ciderman Bert and the spirit of Christmas Present, replacing longtime Christmas caroler Alan Rust. I would have liked him to be a little more jolly on the front end of the Christmas Present sequence, and then pare it down to the darker moments at the end of that segment, giving it a broader journey. Well, look at that. Even in my revelry of this show I love so dear, I still threw in a few critiques. But yes, I do love this show. It honors Dickens' message of charity and the spiritual consequences of apathy. Most of the dialogue is lifted right out of the book. It's immensely atmospheric, capturing the grim, gritty world of London in the industrial age, but most of all, it is a joyful and triumphant piece. It is near and dear to my heart, and as long as I live in Connecticut, I will never fail to see the show every year for as long as Hartford Stage continues to produce it. It is an institution and a tradition, and I will always celebrate it. But I'm only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see A Christmas Carol, A Ghost Story of Christmas, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get tickets. If you'd like to support my channel, again, please feel free to visit my Patreon page. A link to that is in the description as well. You can also support me by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be the off-Broadway musical, The Gardens of Annuncia. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.